And we are back with more on News Talk Saga 960. 1 second. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. 1, 2, test 1. That's better. 1, 2. That's better. All right. How's the weather out there, by the way?
Oh, the snow's not getting. Got a little bit of snow now.
Nice. Snow is what exactly? What the?
Yeah, you're a Floridian.
uh, how quickly they forget. All right, we are back. Oh, wait a minute here. Why is it? Okay, 1, 2, test 1. And we are back with more on News Talk. And we are back with more on News Talk Saga 960. So very glad that you could join us on this Friday edition of UFO Friday with our friend Dave Scott of at Spaced Out Radio. That's Spaced Out Radio, and terrific show on Saga 960. You can listen to Spaced Out Radio and Dave Scott at 10 a.m. Sorry, 10 p.m. I'll get it right. 10 p.m. Eastern to 1 a.m. Eastern. Radio that is the type that will keep you up at night because Dave does a terrific job. He's a wonderful storyteller. He's got fantastic guests. I don't know why this guy isn't the biggest star in the UFO universe. Not yet, anyway. Maybe because he's out there in 100 Mile House rather than in Las Vegas or one of the other UFO centers. But word is beginning to. Fuck. And we are back with more on News Talk Saga 960. So very glad that you could join us on this Friday edition of UFO Friday with our friend Dave Scott of Spaced Out Radio. And you can listen to Spaced Out Radio from 10 p.m. Eastern Time to 1 a.m. Eastern Time. Mondays through Fridays is a fantastic show, and you can catch that show on Saga 960, or you can listen to the podcast, of course. Check out the podcast at saga960am.ca. Dave, welcome to the show.
Hey, how you doing, Mark? It's always good to be with you. And this is one of my favorite times of the week when I'm on with you on Saga here. And hello to all your audience.
Well, our audience appreciates having you on the show. They always get a kick out of it, always get great reaction because it's the one time of my week when I get to do something a little different. Most of the time I spend, um, you know, kicking liberals in the non-existent nuts and having a great time doing it. But when you're on, I get to do other stuff like look at the possibility of ETs and aliens. And of course, last time I had you on, of course, you were with Samantha, who was just a wonderful person. I had all sorts of people reacting to that, by the way. Some people wondering if she was a space alien herself, or other people wondering if she wasn't all there upstairs. Other people thought that she was just a really nice person with a interesting story to tell. But I hope Samantha had a good time coming on the show.
She did.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, she totally did. You know, Samantha understands the public reaction to her. Okay. I will say this, Mark. I once had, a few months ago, I had a good friend of mine who is very well connected within the U.S. government look into Samantha and her stories and her evidence that she has found on her own. And I will tell you this person, once again, very well connected in the American government and the military and in the whole UFO game that's going on right now, said to me point blank, Dave, I cannot bring Samantha out.
First of all,
I said, why?
Can I stop you there? What do you mean bring her out? Bring her out to where?
Well, they were working on a television show
Okay.
and they wanted an experiencer. And I said, Samantha is the perfect person for you.
Mm-hmm.
And after he viewed a number of Samantha's videos on the air, he
Mm-hmm.
said, Dave, we cannot bring her out. The world, I'm trying to find the quote. The world is not ready for her. And then he said, where is she getting her information from? I said, she's pretty much channeling it and it's from her own experiences. He goes, she is way too accurate for where we are in the game right now.
So she couldn't be brought out, not because she's a flake, but because she's too plugged in to whatever's going on.
She's put it this way, we're still running to first base. Okay. Samantha's rounding.
Some of us haven't even got out of the batter's box.
Yeah. Okay. So we're in the batter's box. Samantha's okay. That's pretty much where it is. Yeah. You're either going to love her, you're going to scratch your head, or you're going to say she's full of crap. One of the three. And I can tell you from personal experience with her, it is amazing how accurate she is.
All right. For those who did not see the interview or hear the interview, rather, with Samantha and Dave, Samantha lives in British Columbia. She wouldn't go into any great specifics about exactly where. I mean, BC is an incredibly big place, huge province, but somewhere, I believe, in northern British Columbia. So if you could track her down with that broad brush description of her location, you're a better man than me or woman. But she has been a contactee for years, has been experiencing things. And so she came on the show and just blew us all away.
She's pretty intense.
Well, she started talking so fast and and
well, you know
it
what?
was so jam-packed with information that she left me in the dust after about 3 seconds. Already it wasn't just over my head. It was like way up in the sky.
When she does interviews, she is actually channeling the information that is being given to her.
Okay, so that's not her talking, or
well, it's her talking, but she is so wonderfully connected to the ethereal world that she's actually channeling, and that's why she talks real fast. Okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, so she's got I guess it must be hard. So she's experiencing this stuff. It's coming out of her mouth, and us mere earthlings are just going, "Why? Excuse me? Wait, whoa!" It's like, but she's a wonderful person, and I have no doubt that she's going through something. I don't know what it is, but and that she did talk about certain things, which just through my own readings of metaphysical stuff, I found interesting, and I had connected to just from my readings of other stuff, like when she was talking about how these aliens or these ETs consume what they consume, and they consume energy. They don't eat, well, some of them, I guess, eat food, including apparently eat people, but others, and I don't know if it's the reptilians or what, there are a group of beings that consume your energy, literally consume. So and she talked about negative energy. So there seems to be a faction of people that actually consume things like depression, sadness. Mm-hmm. They actually feed on that negative energy. Do you remember if she said that? And
I mean, the beings come in so many different shapes and forms. Okay, you're dealing with spiritual beings, you're dealing with physical beings, you're dealing with energetic beings. I mean, there's an entire realm out there, Mark, that it's not just black and white about, okay, there's aliens and they come from the sky. You're dealing with a spiritual world from different dimensions to different timelines to, whatever it may be. And look, this may sound real sci-fi or fiction right together, but the more people are studying this phenomena, the more, Mark, they are starting to realize that it's not just about aliens coming in a spaceship from the sky. And this is where, if you listen to the US government, what the officials are saying about these craft, they don't know where they're coming from, allegedly. All right. They don't know whether they're coming from the future and teleporting here. They don't know if they're coming from Zeta Reticuli way up in space, or Orion's belt, or wherever it may be. Okay, pick your constellation. They don't know if it's a different timeline, if it's a different dimension. Okay, this is all, this may sound very hokey to a lot of people, Mark, but this is what the big scientists are working on right now in trying to figure this out. The US government has a bunch of scientists who literally, their job is to work on the weird stuff. All right. Is there dimensions? I mean, we all hear what's happening at Skinwalker Ranch down at the Uinta Basin in Utah.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the stuff they're working on. This is the stuff that they
Is that a portal? Is Skinwalker Ranch a portal into another dimension,
don't know.
Another world?
They can assume, they know there's portals there. Okay. But they don't understand how these creatures are moving about, where they're coming from. And we're not just talking aliens here, we're talking monsters too. Okay, real live monsters, like demonic type monsters, Bigfoot, Dogman, skinwalkers. If people don't know what skinwalkers are, they're basically rogue First Nation or indigenous medicine men who've gone bad and gone rogue and decided that immortality is more important than humanity. All right.
But they've already, quote unquote, died and then gone on to some other realm and then, but come back. But they use this portal to come back.
Exactly. There's a lot going on. And
have you been there?
No, I would love to.
Okay.
I would love to.
What would it take to go? I mean, do they give tours or something like that?
Permission
from the owners.
I'm working on trying to get permission.
Wow.
Okay. The one study that the scientists at Skinwalker Ranch have never done, to my knowledge, is they have never brought in civilian experiencers who are major contactees in a group to try and channel, to try and open portals, to try and communicate, to try and summon with these beings, craft, or extra dimensional creatures. They have not done that. I mean, Mark, let's go down this road a little bit, buddy, because, you said something very profound right off the top of the show regarding, the reaction to Samantha. Look, if people actually took the time, okay, to do proper research, not just clickbait research that you're going to see a bunch of crap videos on YouTube, but took the time to delve into this subject a little deeper, to learn who Brandon Fugel is, or names.
Who is Brandon Fugel?
Brandon Fugel's the owner of Skinwalker Ranch.
Okay.
To learn about Robert Bigelow, to learn about scientists like Hal Puthoff. Okay, do you remember the movie Men Who Stare at Goats?
Yes. Yeah.
That's a true story. That's based
on men who stare. These were actual experiments that were done.
Yes.
By the CIA, was it?
Hal Puthoff, who is very well known in our community, okay, is the one who started that program and ran that program.
And these were people who could kill a goat by staring at it.
Yeah. I talked to somebody who was in that program named John Alexander.
Wow. Okay.
Colonel John Alexander. And one of the characters in the movie is based off of him.
Okay.
And, John Alexander.
The George Clooney character?
I don't know which one. It's not Clooney.
Okay.
But John Alexander is about an 88-year-old man, Vietnam hero. He was sent in. He was special ops, sped into the deepest or dropped into the deepest, darkest parts of the Vietnamese jungle to go do what he had to do. And he has created non-lethal weaponry for the United States military, including weapons that have been used in military grounds like Afghanistan, where they point this beam at a person and the person doesn't die, but what happens is they crap their pants immediately. And most people, when they crap their pants, they go running because, well, their embarrassment takes over. This is true stuff.
Well,
okay.
Has this weapon been used on Joe Biden recently? I'm just curious because
maybe
that seems to have happened to him
maybe
quite often during his meetings with the Pope. And
that was awesome.
All right.
But
okay, so but then instead of these are people who, I mean, at the end of the I don't. Okay, I'm not going to give anything, but these people were actually believed that they could go through walls, and they did experiments.
Yeah.
Which and I want to see if I have to throw to a break. Yeah, I kind of do. Can you stick around, right?
Yes.
All right. We got to go to a quick commercial break on this Friday edition of UFO Friday. UFO Friday does happen on Friday. It's funny how that works. And Dave Scott's going to continue chatting about this fascinating topic after this brief commercial break. Back with more. And we are back with more on News Talk Saga 960. So very glad you could join us on this Friday edition of the show with Dave Scott of Spaced Out Radio. You can catch Dave's fantastic show from 10 p.m. Eastern to 1 a.m. Eastern time. And it's 3 hours of spine-tingling radio that will keep you up at night because it's so darn fascinating. His discussions about UFOs, and not just aliens, ETs, but other paranormal events that like Sasquatch, for instance. You're into that, right?
Oh yes, everything.
We've spoken about Sasquatch. I don't know too much about Dogman. I can use Mothman. That was the other interesting topic. But there are all sorts of weird creatures, and there's been a lot. Have you noticed how much there is about Sasquatch on TV lately? You can't get away. What is going on?
It is such a popular subject, man. Sasquatch is a beautiful subject about this creature that literally tens of thousands of people have witnessed over the years, and trying to find it is like a needle in the haystack. A lot of First Nations Indigenous people believe that you don't find Sasquatch, Sasquatch finds you. Sasquatch allows you to see it. And Sasquatch it's a weird character, and because there are so many facets to it. You have researchers out there who swear it's flesh and blood, and it's the North American great ape, maybe a descendant of Gigantopithecus. You have many of the indigenous and others who have said that Sasquatch seems to be a spiritual type being that can shapeshift or appear or disappear at its own will, like walking in and out of portals. And that's why we've never found a body. Then you have the hippie section, who believe that Sasquatch are people too and should have voting rights. Right? So,
okay, are they the types who think that it's offensive to call them Bigfoot?
Yes.
So there are actual people who are so woke that they think that it's offensive to refer to Sasquatch by any term other than Sasquatch. Like Bigfoot would be an offensive, pejorative term in describing these creatures. Just like that lady who came out and said that aliens is offensive to extraterrestrials. She said they prefer ETs.
Yeah, Demi Lovato. That she was offended by that.
Wow. Whatever. It takes all kinds to make a world, man. What would we talk about? Okay, so you have had encounters with Sasquatch, correct?
I have.
Could you talk about that? Was it a feeling that you had of a presence?
No.
Or was it an actual? It was a sighting.
I was living in Mission, British Columbia, in, well, geez, from 2000 to 2015 before I moved up north. And my friend had this farm, this 10-acre farm on top of a mountain in the backwoods of Mission. And the Mission, Hatzick, Maple Ridge, Golden Ears Mountain, Harrison Hot Springs area, it's all within an hour and a half drive. It's all famous for Sasquatch sightings. And so him and I were walking through his backyard, way in the back field. He wanted to show me something, and we were taking this trail back, and all of a sudden we came across this tree that was probably 8 inches around, and it was snapped at 8 feet tall, and it was freshly snapped. Now, I'm not a tree expert.
How thick was this thing? Do you remember?
About 8 inches in diameter.
And it was snapped like a twig.
Yeah. Okay. And it was snapped at 8 feet high. Now, what I remember about this tree was the bark was still very wet. Like this had just happened. This wasn't a tree that was knocked down. We hadn't had any windstorms. We hadn't had any rainstorms. And in our amateur way, looking to see if there was bugs there or anything like that, that had eaten through. No, this was a fresh, healthy tree. There were no other trees around it. And then all of a sudden we started getting the feeling we were being watched.
The feeling.
It's like anything.
I know the feeling.
Yeah. So.
Did you hear anything?
No. And we just started looking around because we weren't thinking Sasquatch at that time. We were joking Sasquatch, but we weren't thinking Sasquatch. In BC here, the common thought is bears, right. Mountain lions, right? They can kill you. So we were looking for those, and we saw this silhouette behind this tree right in front of us, about 100 feet away, and you could see it peering in and out, and then peering in, and then going behind the tree, and then peering in, and then you just see the shoulder, and then it was
a shy Sasquatch.
Yeah, but they're known to do that. But I said to my buddy, his name's Dave as well. I said, "Hey, Dave, you see that?" And he's like, "Yeah, man." I said, "That looks like a Sasquatch."
And it was checking you out.
And he's like, "Yep." He goes, "That's exactly what it is." So we watched this thing for about 5 minutes.
5 minutes. That's an eternity.
Yeah.
In Sasquatch time.
And then Dave said, "You know what? Let's leave. I don't want to." It wasn't aggressive. It wasn't making any sounds. It was curious, just watching us. And so Dave said, "Look, before this situation gets out of hand, let's go." So he turns down the trail. I start to turn down the trail, kind of doing a 360, turning towards my right. And so if this guy is at straight high noon on a clock, I go about 1:30, and I see this tree branch shaking like this, okay, like really fast, like you're trying to get the acorns to fall off the tree, or the cherries to fall off the tree, or the apples, or whatever. Yeah. Okay. And I stopped and I looked, and this is only about 75 feet from me now, and that's where I see the second one walk right through where that tree branch was shaking.
A second Sasquatch.
And I got a full right side and back profile of it. I saw the arm, I saw the hair, I saw the back from waist high. I saw that it had absolutely no neck. It literally went these giant shoulders straight to this big pointy cone head, right?
Wow.
And walked right through where those trees were, or those tree branches were shaking, and got the hell out of Dodge.
That must have been terrifying, that experience. I mean, seeing this thing. The other thing of it, I hear that they smell really badly. Have you heard this?
Yeah. Yeah, we never had any smell. No smell at all. We got out of there. And then a few weeks later,
yeah,
we were just taking a walk because there was always something weird happening on their property, Mark. And we were taking a walk around their property.
Yeah.
Once again, get the feeling that we're being followed. And I turn back and look. We're right by the house. And behind the house, they had this old cherry tree. And I turn and I look at that cherry tree and I could see pixelation. Much like if you were to pixelate my face.
Like Predator?
Yeah.
Okay, so Predator pixelates.
Yeah. So from the ground to about 10 feet up, 10 feet up.
Okay.
And here's the weird part. There were 4 of us walking around that property, and I got them to stop and look. And only one of the 3 others could see that pixelation. So
but all of you were looking at it, but only some could see it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one of the weird parts about the phenomena. Is only sometimes if whoever they are, want you to see it, they'll allow you to see it. If they don't want you to see it, they're not going to see it. So the other 2 get frustrated and start walking towards the house again. We get towards the front of the house, and right where that cherry tree was, we got roared at.
Roared.
This was the most blood-curdling thing I have ever heard in my life. It sounded like a lion mixed with a screaming banshee. Now, I have gone over audio this is where your journalistic intentions come in, because I wanted to know. I knew it wasn't a wolf. Was it a bear? Was it a cougar? Was it a coyote making sounds that I've never heard before? I know it wasn't deer in the area or raccoons. Okay.
Raccoon. I mean, I don't think raccoons roar, do they?
No, neither do deer. Mew, mew. If anybody's heard of deer, but I knew it. I had to label it down to the creatures that I had heard. Okay, that lived in my area. So black bears and cougars. And I played dozens of clips. In trying to study, go on YouTube and try and listen to as many cougar roars and bear roars as possible. And nothing sounded like what we heard. Nothing. And then I went and listened to some Sasquatch roaring, or alleged Sasquatch roaring. And that's exactly what we heard.
Right. These recordings exist of Sasquatches, or alleged Sasquatches.
Yeah.
And how long did the roar go? Do you remember? Was it
4 seconds?
Yeah.
5 seconds?
Enough to the goosebumps and the hair standing on end.
What was interesting about it was that area being on a mountain. There's a lot of mountain, hobby farms and everything. You would hear the echo of the cows. You would hear the echo of the goats, the horses, the sheep in the area. Dogs barking, you'd hear the echoes. When this thing roared, there was no echo.
Really?
Yeah. And other Sasquatch researchers have had that same issue too. Do
you get the sense that this thing was communicating, that it knew you were there, and it was saying, by the way, watch your ass?
I didn't, as scary as it was, and we ran into the house, because you just don't know. I don't know what it was. I think it was pissed off that maybe the other 2 didn't see the pixelation. As weird as that may sound, I don't know. Right? I don't know.
Right. It's weird the way, I'm going to take a break in a couple of minutes, but how it is that they haven't been, I don't know, caught or shot, or, you know what I mean? Like,
well, there is record of people shooting them. The problem is there's no record of them dying. The only potential...
But I mean, if these things exist, do they not find, dead Bigfoot around?
No, not that we know. The only time that we have allegedly found bodies of Sasquatch was back in May 18th, 1980, when Mount St. Helens blew up in Washington State.
Right.
Now, Mount St. Helens, previous to that explosion, had a part of their mountain way that was called Ape Canyon, where people for centuries had claimed to have interaction with Sasquatch. So much so in the 1930s, these hunters were staying at a cabin and they saw a Sasquatch, and one took a shot at this, hit it in the shoulder, one of the Sasquatch in the shoulder, and those gentlemen were terrorized in that cabin for the next 24 to 48 hours before the Sasquatch left them alone, and they all got the hell out of there as quickly as they could.
And we're going back to around what year?
1930s that happened.
1930s.
But fast forward to when Mount St. Helens erupted on May 18th, 1980, and after all the debris and everything, there was allegedly Army Chinook helicopters that were picking up bodies with their nets and flying them to somewhere at Fort Lewis Army Base in Washington, D.C. Or not D.C., Washington State, pardon me.
Now, as I remember it, there was one fatality at Mounts, a guy who wouldn't leave, from my understanding.
Well, there was more fatalities than one human-wise, but these creatures, they were literally, flying, looking for bodies and looking for victims, looking for people who were stranded, and apparently they saw a couple Sasquatch bodies, and they picked them up, put them in a net, and flew off with them for study. That's the only time I've heard a real body being found. Now, will we ever be able to confirm that story? No, unless the Army gives it up.
Yeah, unless it's funny how they keep all the good stuff for themselves.
Absolutely.
Let me take a time out. Can you stick around, or you got to go?
No,
stick around. All right. Quick commercial break. Back with more on News Talk Saga 960 and the Mark Petroni Show, and Dave Scott of Spaced Out Radio after this brief commercial break. And we're back with more on News Talk Saga 960, segment number 3 with our friend Dave Scott, host of Spaced Out Radio. Terrific show on Saga 960. You can listen to it on your radio or online, and you can listen to it from 10 p.m. Eastern Time. You can do the time change wherever you happen to be to 1 a.m. and 1 a.m. Eastern Time, and fantastic show. You have amazing guests on that show. Have you got somebody either coming up or somebody you've just had who just completely blew your mind?
Oh goodness! Right now, it's really about UFOs right now, man.
Okay, talk about them.
Well, I mean, as of a couple days ago, the Pentagon came out and stated that they were getting rid of their UAP task force and starting a new task force called the AOIMSG, horrible acronym for it, that they will be taking care of all of the UFO stuff that the military goes through within U.S. sensitive airspace. And the funny part about this is this comes on the heels of Senator Kristen Gillibrand, who really wants to open up more UAP transparency within the government. But the Pentagon, literally, if more people paid attention to this, Mark, the real story is this. This could be the start of the divide between the military industrial complex and civilian politicians. That's how this is taking place, because with the Pentagon and the militaries coming in basically saying, you know what, politicians, you stay there. We'll take care of these craft, whatever they are. You don't need to be paying attention. They're closing the door to research, like the military always does. Okay? They want to sweep UFOs back under the rug.
Why?
Because there's a lot of secrets, Mark. There's a lot of Pandora's boxes that got to open. What happened at Roswell? Well, what happened in Phoenix? What happened in Kecksburg, Shag Harbor? Okay, the in the 50s, the
Falcon
United
Lake.
States Air Force jet fighter who got that allegedly got shot down in Lake Michigan or Lake Superior by a UFO. What's happening with the USS Nimitz Falcon Lake incident? The Montreal lights, the Prince George lights,
Phoenix lights.
the
And there's
Phoenix
always the nuclear silos type stuff with
area and nuclear silos, Area 51. Do we have contact? Do we have bodies? Have we reverse engineered craft?
I mean,
This
this stuff has been going on for years though, Dave. Why the crackdown now?
$1 million question. Me personally, like I told you a few months ago, I still think contact was made.
So we've had contact. I mean, there's
I
talk, of
do.
course, that it happened way back in the 50s with
No,
Eisenhower and
we're talking real contact. And in my opinion, and I could be completely wrong, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people spitting out their coffee when I say this while they're listening to it. Okay, my opinion is the U.S. government got contact, made contact, and they were told a date, and that date is within the next 35 years. It could be as short as 3 years, could be as long as 35 years. And I think what they started to need to do is they needed to figure out and start preparing people.
no, would someone like your friend and hopefully my friend Samantha, would she know something like would she have been a
I have
recipient
talked
of
to her
information?
about it. I
Does
have
she
talked to her about
does
it.
she know? Does she have
She believes my sentences on it are correct.
does she have an accurate I mean, your timeline is huge.
No, there is no timeline. Now, where I got the original timeline was a source of mine who's very connected to Washington, D.C.
And they listen to you. Apparently, you are listened to in DC by people in the know. We spoke about we spoke about this. They tune in to Spaced Out Radio because
Apparently, from what I've heard, okay, it's not just my show. It's not exclusive to me.
Yeah.
It's many shows that are like mine. And what they do is if they have from what I've heard is if they have a strong host, okay, they will pay attention to the host. But more so, they're paying attention to the guest. So if somebody like Luis Elizondo or Chris Mellon comes on the radio, or Harry Reid or John Alexander or Hal Puthoff or any of the big names goes on a show, or maybe even researchers, whether it's Grant Cameron, Linda Moulton Howe, Richard Dolan, of researchers of that ilk go on a radio show, they're tuning in. They want to see A, what they've learned, B, hopefully they get a podcast or radio host that actually knows how to ask proper questions, rather than our illustrious CBC reporters who ask, are there little green men running around on Mars? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they're listening for.
Okay. So who is this Elizondo guy? I've seen him on Fox as well. And you always get the sense that he knows more than he's saying. But are you getting him back?
Trying.
Yeah.
I talked to my source yesterday who is hanging out with him in Wyoming. That's where Elizondo lives. And they were watching all the news come in and taking phone calls, not from the public, but from other areas and other avenues in the government to, for reaction to what the Pentagon had put out there publicly, Mark. So, I mean, it's like an election time. You have everybody huddled in a war room trying to figure out the numbers, the strategy, who's saying what to who. Where did this person come up with that? How did Politico get this quote? How did the Washington Examiner get that quote? How did the New York Times get this person? Right? I mean, that's basically the way it is. and makes you feel alive, man.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So what's next in UFO in the
Well,
UFO world? What's going on? Like,
we're gonna see
what's
how
on the
far this
horizon?
goes. Senator Gillibrand's bill is supposed to pass here anytime, and if it does pass, we are going to, Mark. We really need to take some serious look at this about the military-industrial complex, because UFOs, the war of words, has started over UFOs. Believe it or not.
Between the
Okay.
civilian part of the operation and the
From
industrial complex,
from what
because
I'm
I thought they were one and the same now, and that
no
the industrial complex won,
No,
and they
what I'm hearing is this: the UFOs phenomena is a 50-50 split. 50% of people want to have this come out. Let's have disclosure. Okay?
Mhm.
That's the key term there, disclosure, for the last 29 years. Then there's the other 50% who are military and religious,
And they say no.
and they're like, no, we don't need the demons coming. We just want to keep the technology for ourselves. We don't want the Russians getting it. We don't want the Chinese getting it. Because if anybody's been following this story recently, Mark,
Mhm.
you will notice that all the big names and that go on camera,
Mhm.
they don't mention Russia or China anymore.
That's right. What's going on with that?
Well, because it's not them. I was
Okay.
asked by an insider close to Luis Elizondo, who knows I spent a decade in journalism. So, what would you do differently? And I'm not taking credit for this. I just put the idea out there. I said, if you want to move the ball further, you have to get Lou Elizondo and Chris Mellon and anybody who you're tied to stop using the words Russia and stop using the word China, because we all know it's not them. I
Right.
said, what will happen is eventually, after enough interviews, the media will catch on that you're not talking Russia or China anymore. And if you're not talking Russia or China, and those are the two biggest adversaries that the United States has on this planet, and we know that the Iraqis don't have anything. We know the Iranians don't have the tech. We know the Indian government is our friends. We know the Pakistanis aren't going to do anything. We know the Afghanis are still partying like it's 1499, right?
Yeah.
You, you know,
Okay.
there's no one else.
I mean, when you're talking about technology, is there immortality type of technology that could be
We're,
part and parcel there? I mean,
yeah. So recently there was a report that many of the CEOs of some of the biggest tech companies in the world
right.
are looking into immortality,
Yeah.
including Mr. Jeff Bezos from
Mhm.
Amazon.
Right.
Because what they are trying to do is work on medical technology that will get us into biblical ages as human beings, 200 years, 300 years, 400 years of living, and potential immortality. Now, of course, the billionaires are going to start with them. Why would they want to die when life is so good here? Especially if, Darwin and the rest of his scientists are correct that we're one and done. And there is no reincarnation like the Hindu religion says, or there is no rebirth like Christianity says. There is no heaven, there is no hell. We end up being a John Lennon song. Imagine that, right? So, I mean, there's a lot of things going on. So
And
now
that's alien information that people can access in order to render, say, Jeff
Russell Brand,
Bezos or
Russell
Elon Musk
Russell,
immortal.
comedian Russell Brand, who is
Yeah.
quite the conspiracy theorist,
Right.
actually 2 weeks ago, about 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago, did a 10-minute video on his YouTube channel about how some of the biggest companies in the world and the biggest company leaders in the world
Mhm.
within the medical fields and tech fields are looking at immortality.
And have been for, I mean, people like the guy who wrote the Singularity, the guy who invented, I think, the Moog synthesizer. His name escapes me. But these people have been doing it for years and looking at things like, vitamin supplementation and eating certain foods into extending like life. This stuff has been around forever. What I'm talking about, what I'm asking you about, is the possibility that technology exists that may have been extraterrestrial, that may already be in the realm of information amongst certain segments of society. You spoke about the military industrial complex that actually already exists that could give people an extra, 100 years. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, I mean, look here. I mean, nobody wants to die. If you're Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, and you're sitting there, okay, so I work my ass off from my 20s to my 50s. I then start to take a break. I divorce the wife because that normally happens once the retirement happens. Then you get, the trophy girlfriend, all right, who says I love you while she sees the dollar signs in your eyebrows, right? and or boyfriend, whatever you're into, I should clarify. And all of a sudden you're in your 60s, 70s, and your body can't move as well as it is anymore. You're not as attractive as you once were. You're living, you can't enjoy things that you could in your 20s to 40s or 20s to 50s. So of course these guys are like, I worked this hard for 30 years of my life. I built up a mega empire that should have never been made, but I was able to accomplish it. And now I'm going to retire and I'm on cruise control, even though they never really ever get out of the game. But there's no time for fun. There's no time for dinner. There's no time for working out because you want to sleep in a little bit more. You want to shut things down. You're tired more. Now, I'm not saying that's what I'm sure there's a bunch of 60 and 70-year-olds will be, bah humbug on me about that, but I look at my parents. Okay. My dad kept working because he loved working, and retirement is, aged him. It really has.
It's true. So many people die after they retire.
Oh, my dad's had three friends within 6 months of retirement die.
Sad.
Yeah.
I mean, you work all your life, get to the point where you don't have to work anymore, and boom. It's like
absolutely. So if you're
almost
somebody
like retirement
Jeff
sends a
Bezos,
message to your
if you're like Jeff Bezos and you built up a multi-trillion-dollar company, and you were worth $200 billion, you're not worried about your next meal. You're not worried about anything. The only thing that you're worried about is time. It's not about.
Then you get your Steve Jobs, who dies young. I mean,
absolutely.
All right. So what have you got cooking on your show that listeners to this show should be aware of?
Well, let me pull up my schedule here because I have the old tickle trunk here. Let's see here. Well, we're going to finish off November with some paranormal, and on the 30th, it will be our 7-year anniversary as Spaced Out Radio.
Nice.
From when I started it. So we're going to try and do something a little special then. And then basically it's the stretch to December where we're going to get into a lot of weird stuff from Mothman to UFOs to ETs to, to, let's see, what else do we have on the schedule here? Miracles and cryptid monsters. What's this here? Let's see what Stacey Horn is about. New York, Stacey Horn, author, who's an NYPD cold case squad author. We're going to do a UFO podcast roundtable on the year that was in ufology.
Nice.
And you know what? We may even be broadcasting on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve.
Brilliant.
I haven't decided yet, but you know what? There's a lot of fun that kind of gets into that,
Absolutely. All right, Dave, thank you so much for coming on the show once again. Always a blast. Always a blast.
Always a pleasure.
Spaced Out Radio is the name of the show. And you can follow Dave at Spaced Out Radio, correct?
Yes.
On Twitter. And check out your website. You've got spacedoutradio.com, is it?
Yeah. And if I can mention one thing, we just
Absolutely,
started a TikTok account,
Okay.
and it's tiktok.com/spaced out radio if you're on your computer, or just type in on your app at Spaced Out Radio on TikTok, and you'll find us very easily. We'd love to journey up with our subscribers.
Brilliant, Dave Scott. All right, my friends, that wraps up my week. So hope you enjoyed it. Absolute blast bringing this content to you on a daily basis. And have a great weekend. Have a safe weekend. Let's do it all again next week if I'm still around. Hopefully I will be. Take care, my friends. Bye-bye for now.
There you go, buddy.
Thank you, my friend.
Anytime. You're Mark fucking Petroni, man. Why wouldn't I do it for you?
Is that what they call me out there in 100 Mile House? They don't even know. They wouldn't know who I am out there.
Yeah. I will tell you this, man. I having a blast with you. I love doing these. I look forward to them.
I love them too, my friend. You're hard. You're a heck of a lot of fun to talk to.
Hey, what's happening politically out there? I haven't been paying attention.
I'm in Florida. I'm still in Florida.
Oh, are you?
Did I mention that I was in Florida?
Yeah.
Yeah. So out there, you mean like Florida, or do you mean Ontario?
Ontario.
It's not good. They just extended the emergency orders, and it's not cool. So they're just obsessed with. They don't want to give up their little power, and in fact, they don't want more or less power. They want more of it, and it's brutal.
There we go.
And
now I got you.
Anyway, so it's a struggle. It's a struggle, and
I would love for somebody in government, or in our case here in British Columbia with Bonnie Henry, I would love somebody to fucking explain to me how, if I sit down at Rogers Arena where the Canucks play, I can take my mask off and the air is different from when I stand up and have to put my mask on to leave the building.
I don't know, man, but the aliens must be laughing at us, or maybe
The
scratching
stupidity,
their head.
dude, I can't handle dumb. I really cannot handle dumb. And the way people are falling for this mask bullshit,
Yeah, what's the situation out there? Are they wearing them?
Oh, you go to Lower Mainland, people are fucking mask nuts. You can't get into a restaurant without showing your fucking boarding pass or your shot pass. I got vaccinated. Between you and I did get vaccinated. I got the Moderna. And the only reason my wife and I were not going to get it, but I have some travels to do in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, I have to get across the border, and I can't without the shot.
Well, that's what they're counting on, and it's sad, but that's just the way it is.
I will tell you this, though. I had 0 side effects from Moderna. 0.
Good.
But that's me.
Yeah.
I know
other people. Yeah. Other people are having a rough time with it. It's luck of the draw. It's luck of the draw.
I got to run here, buddy.
All right, my friend. Thanks. Great talking to you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.